the boss calls me and he's like, hey man, they said they found child porn on the computer here in the guard's office. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, they said you downloaded it. I'm like, who's that? What? No, like that's insane. And he's like, you sick mother. And I hang up on him and I'm like, 17. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Bro, my anxiety is going through the fucking roof right now.
Bro.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. I am your host, David So. If you guys have not listened to the Genius Brain Podcast before, you are in for a fucking treat. I always start off with an F-bomb because everybody's like, why do you always curse? And I tell you, mind your fucking nuts, bitch. I curse because I love it, and I love you very much. Today, we have a guest. It's my buddy, Brian Perry, boxing coach. If you haven't been following me on Instagram, I've been training with Brian, boxing here and there, beginning back into boxing. And I've known Brian for, how long have I known you now?
6 years, 7?
It's been a hot minute, dude.
I think, yeah, like, well, maybe 5 years.
5 years? It's been a good second.
It's been a long time. I want to say it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Like a couple years before that. Maybe like 2018 is when I met you.
Yeah.
So 4 years, I guess.
Yeah, Brian met me when I literally just started trying to kickbox.
Yeah.
Like for the very first time.
Yeah.
And it was a new experience. So he's literally seen me since day one till now. And it's been a very, very long journey. So maybe it's been 4 years. About 4 years.
Yeah. 4. The growth has been crazy.
Yeah, because I was training for about a year pretty seriously, just trying to get the motions. And then the second year was just having fun. Yeah. And then pandemic happened.
Yeah. Why do I feel like it feels like so much longer. But I feel like that just makes your development that much more impressive.
Man, it's been fun, man. I think like the development wise has been easier once I started to just. The funny thing is, I think I got better when I stopped taking it so damn seriously.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I think I've had that experience too, because it's like, I think just like with anything, when it moves from art to like obligation, it just kills the fun for it. And the fun, any kind of art, martial art, drawing, singing, whatever, if you lose the fun, it just becomes so regimented and your creativity goes away. And that's the point. Yeah.
A lot of people too, when we talk about boxing and kickboxing, I'm not saying I'm fucking good or anything like that, but
he is.
The idea behind it is like, everybody thinks they have to be great at something the moment they start it.
Oh, totally.
And they get embarrassed if they're not good. It's like, bitch, you just started.
Yeah, for real.
You're not supposed to be good. Not everybody's a fucking John Jones learning how to kickbox on YouTube.
Exactly.
These people are anomalies. Yeah. And I feel sometimes sad for young people when they feel this pressure to be excellent at everything. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be excellent at everything. Sometimes you just have to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
Right? Some of the best, when I first started kickboxing and boxing, I think some of the stuff that I got frustrated at was what became something that I enjoyed the most. Like, for example, just throwing a cross correctly.
Yeah.
And then when you finally get it right, that process was so enjoyable and it made it so worth it.
Yeah.
And, when I get DMs a lot, it's like, hey, I want to get into boxing. How do I start? Mm-hmm. You go to class and you start.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the thing though, right? Is that like you have to be cool with being bad as shit if you're going to get good at anything. And I think that's what it is. It's not even that you have to, I think if you prioritize learning over anything else, I think that's a huge bump in as far as your, your perseverance, your willingness to go through the shittiness. Mm-hmm. If your goal is just to learn, right? And not knock someone out your first day or beat up everyone in the room or be able to throw a 360 kick. If you're just down to learn and you keep that, you'll never hit a plateau where you feel like you're sucking or it's bad because that wasn't even your reasoning in the first place.
Yeah. And I think one of the hardest things that for me was I was so scared to get hit because I felt that if I got touched or I got hit, I wasn't good.
Yep.
Which is
I've totally been there.
And it's a huge fallacy because every fighter gets hit no matter how good you are. It does not matter.
You're in the rain. You're gonna get wet.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah. No, and then that's the thing. And honestly, that was just in my own development as a martial artist, that was a huge thing for me because I would do that all the time. And it honestly got worse the better people told me I was getting, it got worse. That mindset of like, because then it's like, then you go into like sparring, right? You go into the room knowing who are the good guys, who are intermediate, maybe who are beginner. And you immediately go like, that beginner shouldn't touch me. The intermediate guy should hit me this much. And then the guys that are my level, fine, it's cool if they hit me. And that's not even the point, right?
Yeah.
The point is to just do the thing. And the more you do the thing, the better you'll get. But I totally know where you're coming from as far as, and at the end of the day, that's what makes you get hit more, right? It's because then you get hit and now you're in your head instead of focusing.
I think that's what stunted my growth the most was that I would just, let's say somebody hasn't trained as long as me and they would touch me.
Yeah.
And then I would get disappointed in myself as how can I let this person even lay a single punch on me?
Yeah.
But we're tech sparring. He's going to touch me.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And even if we weren't and we were full on going out, most likely he's still going to touch me.
Totally.
It just is what I said touch me. People are like, what are they talking about?
Fucking.
You know? But you know, it's funny because I think like for you, you know, when anybody first sees you, they don't think much of you, right?
No.
Because every time somebody sees somebody, a bigger guy, they go, oh, this is free lunch.
Yeah.
All day. And it's so crazy too. Like when I see you move, because, well, number one, too, you're a very like soft-spoken, very kind human being.
Thank you.
And so I don't expect you to punch me in the face.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh, Brian's going to be, and then I remember I have a video clip of it in my Instagram of when it's so funny. We're kickboxing, right? And I used to be very kick heavy at the time.
Yeah.
Because I was very taekwondo and I didn't know how to use my hands very well. And so this fool, I'd low kick him and I'd hit him with the body kick and then we gained distance. And then out of nowhere, I get a triple jab to my face and I don't know what happened. And I look over to Nick and Nick goes, "You're still fighting."
Yeah. You're still going.
Yeah, I just didn't know what happened. I'm like, did I just get hit?
Yeah.
It was literally 3 jabs to my face. Bop, 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 bop.
Yeah.
And I look over and I say, what just happened?
What just happened? Right.
You know?
Yeah.
How did you get into boxing and kickboxing?
You know, honestly, I had been interested in martial arts as a kid. I actually took Taekwondo from like age 4 to 6. And then we ended up, my family and I moved away like to the other side of town. So we never had a car. So that wasn't like a relevant thing. And then, but I was always had interest in it. And like, even before I had joined a gym when I was 20, I had friends who could afford to train. One friend in particular who like over the years became a black belt in Taekwondo, then started taking Muay Thai. We would just spar in the park and he would just whoop my ass. And it was hilarious because he was like this small, like 115 pound, like white boy, but he had years of training and I'm just me. Yeah. And he would just whoop my ass in the park. And that was my training. But like, I think what really pushed me was when I was 20 years old, my mom passed away. And up until that point, my mindset was fighting's cool, but it's not realistic. Like I was a really, really big guy then, never really athletically inclined. So I was like, my path is to go to school, get a job, take care of my mom. So then when she passed away, in the moment, I was just like, well, fuck it. Like, I don't have any reason to do anything else now. Like, I'll just do this. But I think what it really was me just like coping with the loss. Yeah. I think that's what it was. And then, you know, I grew up without a pops. So it gave me a positive male figure who just only said encouraging things to me. It gave me like a community of guys, which was something I wasn't accustomed to because I was raised around predominantly all women. So it gave me a community of guys who were all in there for the same goal, same mission. So it gave me a lot of things that I just hadn't had up until that point. It was perfect.
Yeah. And you know, like as long as I've known you, I've never really gotten to know you that personally until recently, right? Sure. I mean, obviously, because we were training and punching each other in the face. You know, there wasn't like
personal-ish, but
yeah, you know, there wasn't like these one-on-one conversations like I've had with Nick and everybody else. Yeah. And you know, your personal life story is fucking nuts to me. It's fucking crazy. Yeah. And I say this because, you know, I see you as a person and as a human being. And I don't think I would have ever realized how harsh your background was growing up because you seem very well put together. And I've seen, you know, growing where I grew up too, with people who had your same story, but they didn't turn out the way you did, you know? Yeah. And it's kind of like this story of like perseverance. And so when you talk about your family, you kind of glazed over it, like losing your mom and your father not being around, but kind of like the sequence of what happened is very interesting. And I think people's personal stories are also very important to kind of know. Yeah. Because so many times I see on the internet, and kind of just in general with not even young people, adults now too, like people in our age group, millennials, who kind of don't go outside their box to hear other people's story. And it's not to say that when you hear what other people go through to kind of minimize or be dismissive of what you're personally going through, but it gives you perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And so when you talked about your story and how you grew up, like it kind of blew my fucking mind. So that's why, I think it'd be great if you just kind of tell people like what you've been through and kind of where you're at now.
Yeah, totally. So, and then to touch on what you said about how your perspective of me kind of like never made you think I had gone through what I had gone through. It's funny because like growing up, like during that period in like the years kind of immediately after my mom had passed away, and I was like, as I was progressing, I would get the comment a lot where it's like, you could have ended up in a totally different way or doing totally different things and you didn't. And that's like impressive. And I just that never really like sunk with me because in my mind, I'm like, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. But yeah, so basically, really things kind of like took a downturn. So I lived in Pasadena with my whole family, which was my mom and I lived in a back house, and then my aunt and my uncle and my cousins lived in the front house. And that was cool. That was like from age 4 to 11. And then we lost that house, and that's where things kind of like took a downturn. Our family kind of like broke apart. There was drama that I just couldn't really grasp at the time because I think I was too young. And so my mom and I ended up living in a motel because she had tried to put a down payment on like those mobile homes, like the homes you build on a lot. And they were essentially, what she told me was, they're like, well, they can't give me the loan because even though I make enough money, I'm an only parent. And if I get sick, I can't pay the payment.
There's not enough collateral.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had none. We didn't own anything. We'd like been renters our whole lives, or my whole life. So we ended up in the motel and things still weren't too bad. But then kind of around the time we got into the motel, my mom was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And she had probably actually had it for a long time, but her body was just accustomed to such high blood sugar. The doctor, when she got diagnosed, he was like, you should be in a diabetic coma. Like, these numbers are insane.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It was, I don't want to say the wrong number because I don't know the ranges, but it was
bad.
Crazy high. And so we were like, okay, but for me, nothing really changed on the surface. My mom was just taking insulin and eating different. And, she was a bigger lady. And then over the course of a year, she lost something like 160 pounds.
Holy shit.
Yeah, she went from being like close to 300 to like 110 or something like that. Like a small lady. Like I barely recognized her. My mom had been chunky like me my whole life.
Yeah.
And I guess at the time they didn't recognize that like that was a thing that can happen to you when you're type 2 diabetic. I don't know the exact reason why, but I've heard about it now that like, yeah, that can happen when your blood levels get crazy high. So they thought she had some kind of like rare form of blood cancer. And it was all this stuff, right? And I think if I have any regret about how I was, like the years she was getting sicker and sicker, it was like, and I look back at it now and I was becoming sort of like resentful and emotionally shut down. And I think it's because the power dynamic was shifting to where, my mom, there was a point where she had cataracts in both eyes and was like blind. She was blind for like 3 months until she was able to get the cataracts taken out.
Wow.
So I just like had to be home to like walk her around. And it was just my mom, my whole life had been like my sole provider. And she was like this strong, almost like invincible type person. And then to see her kind of like wither away and become like this really like sick, dependent person, it was like fucking with me bad. And I'm going through all this when I'm 17, 18. And there was a time where she was in the hospital and she had been there overnight. It was like the first time she'd ever like went for something real serious. And I was at a card shop in a Magic tournament, Magic the Gathering.
Yep.
And like, I sucked at that game. I sucked at it. And I'm in this tournament and I'm like beating this guy. I'm winning. And I'm like, yes. And then I get a call from my mom. And so I'm like, oh shit. So I answer and she's like, I need you to come get me from the hospital. Like they just discharged me. And at this time we didn't have a car. I'm in Pasadena. She's at the Kaiser on Sunset in downtown LA.
Oh, wow.
So I had to like catch the train, go get her, and then escort her back. And I got mad. And, you know, in that moment, I'm like, I'm about to beat this guy. You know? And I have to leave. Like, this sucks. And like, I felt shitty about that for a long time. But I think what it was what I mentioned earlier. It was just the dynamic was shifting, and I wasn't used to having a mom that like needed me to like take care of her in that way.
I mean, you weren't ready to be a parent.
No.
You know, I think that's the hard part too. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, you know, you had to grow up fast.
Yeah.
And it was kind of honestly sudden.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're a kid, you're not prepared to take care of your parents, right? Mm-hmm. Because your mom, your dad, your father, whoever your guardian is, you know, it's weird. Like, you know that there's a finite time that these people are going to be alive.
Of course.
But it doesn't really register.
No.
You know, you treat them as if they're going to be here forever. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, these small things that feels like an inconvenience to you, it only feels that way because you're like, oh, mom and dad are going to be here forever. Mm-hmm. So it's like, why are they doing this to me?
Yeah.
And, you know, you're super young right now. I mean, you're playing Magic the Gathering, you're playing your card, just like, damn, I have to go ahead and take care of this one when she's supposed to be taking care of me.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really think about these things too, because, you know, those things too, like I try not to beat myself up about that stuff too, because of how I used to, you know, treat my parents when I used to get upset about stupid things.
For sure.
But that comes with age.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did the same to their parents, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so basically, kind of when things were getting like real bad, like coming to a head, you know, her job had like laid her off, I want to say like 3 years before she was getting really sick, because they took like the part of her. She was working in some kind of like manufacturing, like for catheters and for Johnson & Johnson. And they took her wing of like the company and put it in Mexico for cheaper work. And so because that happened before she retired, she had like another year of pay and benefits. And then her benefits went away. We had like no medical coverage. And she had developed an ulcer in her stomach, like a bleeding ulcer.
Jesus.
Yeah. And so like, when you're diabetic, your blood doesn't really clot that well, if at all. And so she was basically like, come to find out after, she was just like very slowly bleeding out internally. And I think at the time it was just like, oh, she's just tired. She sleeps all the time. She's sick. But like, we got past it before. We'll get past it this time. And then, sleeping in the motel, there was just one bed. So we shared a bed, and I was going to go for a run because this was like, I was like tired of being fat. I want to get in shape, all this stuff. And I started running, and I'm like, all right, mom, I'm going for a run. And like, she just like didn't really respond, and something felt off. So then like, I kind of instantly panic, and I put like my ear to her body. I don't hear her breathing. There's no like chest fall of like the breath, like the rise and fall of the chest. I call 911, and I'm just like spiraling, like just panicking. And
how old are you at this time?
20.
Jesus.
Yeah, 20 years old. And I like try and turn her over, and the firefighters get there, and they attach the AED, and there's not even any vital signs coming back into it. And everything happened like super fast. Like they contacted the local mortuary. And I watched them wrap my mom's body up in like this white sheet and take it. And I just uncontrollably cried for the rest of the day.
How did you deal with that shit?
Like, how
do you deal with that?
I don't think I did. I don't think I did. I signed up. I signed up for boxing. And I fell into this really regimented schedule. So a friend of mine who lived in Burbank, his family took me in because I wasn't working at the time because my mom was so sick. And it was like the perfect schedule for someone who didn't want to think about what was going on. So since they lived in Burbank and I didn't have a car and I worked in Pasadena, I would come into Pasadena with them at 7 a.m, work my job 9 to 5, go to the gym, train from 6 to 8, catch the bus home. And that was it, Monday through Friday for like 2 years. And it was perfect for not facing any of my shit. And I think the reality of how depressed I was came in when I stopped working in Pasadena and started working in Burbank. So then I was never in Pasadena. So then my training became really irregular for the first time ever. And I would just like on my way home from work, almost every night, I would stop by the store, get a box of either like bite-sized brownies or Oreos and like a half gallon of milk, and then just stay up till 4 a.m. playing EverQuest 2.
Jesus, dude. Jesus.
Eating fucking an entire container of Oreos and drinking half gallon of milk.
So what happened with your living situation after your mom passed away and you're there? Because you guys were living in a motel. Would you stay in the motel?
No. So I had friends. So basically I called one friend, they called other people, and like 5 or 6 of my friends showed up, and they were there with me. And my friend Gabriel, his mom, offered to just take me in and like give me a place to live while I like got on my feet and got a job. So I was living in Burbank. I lived in Burbank for almost 2 years.
Okay.
And yeah, that was during that time, I think that was like when it was the most apparent that I was like super depressed. Like I'm like a really social, like outgoing kind of guy. Not that at all. Like I just wanted to be in my room. Like work was like just sort of a thing I just went to do. I didn't have any feeling about the job one way or another. And it was weird, like, so, you know me, like I crack jokes a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I found myself doing that almost like automatically. Like, even though like inside I was feeling pretty like hollow and empty. Okay, so here's a story. So the day my mom dies, we all go to my friend Matt's house, like a mile away, and we're playing Street Fighter, Capcom vs. SNK 2 on PlayStation 2. And normally I was the guy that would give everybody the work, right? And so obviously for clear reasons, I wasn't very focused that day. And so I get beat, bad. And I go, come on, man, my mom just died. You're going to beat me in Street Fighter?
Oh, shit.
And literally everyone in the room is like,
How you gonna beat me? My mom just died, bro.
My mom just died, bro. You're not gonna let me win? Like,
damn, I would use that shit so much.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Like we just go out to eat. It's like, you gonna make me split this bill, bro? My mom just died.
Yeah, for like the next 6 years.
Yeah. It's like, bro, it's been 10 years. I think you can pay for the sandwich.
Yeah, you've been at a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting when you were telling me a little bit about like your mom's background too, because I've known, like I have a friend too whose mom, passed away through, some unfortunate circumstances, right? And he went through therapy to kind of deal with the situation because I think like he had a lot of like erratic behavior that he never really understood why, right? And we didn't get it either. And I didn't know his personal story like that. I just knew his mom passed away, but his mom passed away, she got stabbed to death.
Oh,
and
that's something else.
He would never really talk about his mom, whether it was poorly or whether it was positively or not. He just never really spoke about her. And then we were drinking and we were talking. And then I asked him, I'm like, how was your mom? But because he didn't really get to know her that well. And I think she passed away when he was like 7 or 8 years old.
Oh.
And father was never around either. Jeez. And so his grandmother took care of him. And I was asking him one day, and we were drinking, we were a little drunk, and he was like, I hate her. I was like, oh shit. Like, why do you, that kind of threw me off because he was so young and his mom got taken away through very bad circumstances. I was like, why do you hate her? It was like, she left me. I was like, she didn't leave you. Like, I'm trying to kind of taken away. But after that, I think a few years after that, he went through some therapy and then we re-linked up. And he brought up that conversation that we had. He goes, after we had that conversation, like I never told anybody about that shit. But then him and his girl, when they got together, and he's married now, she asked him to go to therapy because whenever he would drink, he would act very violently. Oh. And she's like, you need to go to therapy. You need to figure this shit out. And for anybody in any culture, like, but specifically like in Black culture, therapy that's not it.
Not really.
It's not it. And for him, he wasn't going to go to therapy, but he found a girl that he loved and she gave him an ultimatum. It's like, do this therapy thing and find out. And he said that he had to come to terms with, he felt resentment towards his mom because he wanted her to be around and he wished that she would have made better choices. Like if she had made better choices, she would still be around and this would have never happened to me.
Got you.
And so he was holding this like type of resentment toward his mother who passed away. Wow. He just didn't know how to say it in words.
Yeah.
He just knew that he hated her. He didn't know fucking why.
Yep.
And it was when he went to therapy, it was like, I resent her because my life would have been different. I wouldn't, his grandma was around, but he got into a lot of fucking trouble because he didn't know where to put this anger. And he didn't even know how to put it in the fucking words.
Right.
Which was kind of crazy. And then,
trauma's crazy.
So for you, like when you talk about your mom, and obviously there was some very unfortunate circumstances that happened too. Like, what is your thoughts about your mom?
I think, as crazy as it sounds, I think I'm lucky. I'm lucky because, and whatever, like this perspective might be a little dark, but I think I used to think that I was, it just sucked that like I didn't, now at this point I have no parents, and my friends, and a lot of my friends had parents. And so like, I think I had resentment in that sense when they would like, for a long time, and anyone would be like, would talk about their mom or talk about Mother's Day or buying gifts. It would just like, I'd hold it in, but it would like feel shitty. But then it's like on the flip side, I also see that I have friends that have parents who are like the key source of their trauma and like still cause them emotional pain to this day.
Yeah.
And that I think like looking at that, it's just like, I just have to be grateful that I had the mom I had. And she got to see me throughout my entire childhood. And that's just what my story is. So like, I have to find the gratitude in that. And again, I feel lucky because my mom she was a saint. She just gave and gave and gave and gave and like worked herself to the bone. And, my mom, she didn't know she could even be pregnant. So like her first husband, or her only husband, she was with him for 15 years until he passed away and didn't get pregnant once. And then she met my dad like 3 or 4 years after that.
Wait, what age did she get married at?
17.
Oh shit.
Yeah, man. So my mom's childhood was a trip. I mean, different time, right? But my mom growing up, she was really into math. She either wanted to be a teacher or a nurse. And both of her parents were like, no, you're just going to get married. Like, that's what you do. You're a lady. You're going to get married. You're going to find a man and get married. And she somehow, some way, like met her husband, John, who she said later she suspected he lied about his age, about how old he really was. But even when they got together, I think he was in his early 30s.
Oh.
Yeah, man. And she thinks that he was in his like early 40s. And he just said that he was that much younger. But both of my parents were like into the idea. They like wanted this guy to like marry my mom. So like my grandparents on my mom's side passed away when she was 17 and 19. Her mom passed away the year she got married. And then her dad passed away 2 years later.
How?
My grandma, type 2 diabetes. And then granddad, she said he just kind of let himself go. He was so depressed about his wife dying that he just kind of like laid in bed until he passed away.
Oh my God, that is so fucking sad.
Crazy.
Wow, so your grandma also had type 2 diabetes.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Yeah, man. It's fucking wild.
Did they pass away around the same age then?
I don't know. I don't know how old my grandmother was when she passed away.
Yeah, because you were 20 and she was 17, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's strange. It's strange. Like the way the timing works out is weird. So my mom went from her parents to her husband, and then from her husband for 15 years until he died from pneumonia. So my mom had a ton of her own trauma for sure, which is what makes me cherish her even more because there was like, looking back, my mom was clearly depressed, but that never stopped her from going to work or providing for me or telling me she loved me or giving me hugs or any of that stuff. So I think that's where I get my sort of like built-in perseverance from. I say it's built in because I don't see it as me persevering. I'm just following my mom's example. I'm just like doing what I know, and that's what she was like. She prioritized me above all else. Even though I came as a surprise, because she was with my pops for a year and then just got pregnant.
She thought she couldn't get pregnant.
15 years with that guy and it never happened.
Holy shit.
And so I don't think my dad thought she could get pregnant either.
Oh my God. He was surprised. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, hey man.
Yeah.
We're having a kid. What you said. You know, I don't know what the actual conversation was. I kind of put that together myself later in my life. I was like, wait a minute. If she didn't think she could get pregnant, then my dad definitely didn't think she could get pregnant, you know? So, and you know, he tried. Like, given the kind of guy he was in the life he was living, the first 3 years he was around and he tried, but he was running the streets, you know? That was his life. He was running the streets, stealing, doing drugs. And it was, you know, and he had his own trauma with his older brother and his parents that like, I had maybe one conversation with my grandmother on my dad's side for my 6th birthday. And that's all I ever heard from her.
Well, really? Usually the grandma kind of sticks around.
They're in Texas. They were in Texas.
Oh.
Yeah, that's where my pops was from. He was from Texas. And yeah, you know, I didn't really have a ton of, like, so 0 grandparents in my life. I had my mom, my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins. That was my family. My mom was like the person though I really connected with on like a deep, deep level. What was my original point? So my mom didn't even really start like living her life as an independent adult until she was 32 years old.
Wait, so, because she wasn't working or anything at the time when she was with the first husband.
He wouldn't let her.
Oh, that's some old-fashioned shit.
Yeah, he literally, like, she got a job and he went to the job and told the job that she didn't need the job anymore and to let her go.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, my friends. Are you dealing with a lot of stress? Well, guess what? There's so many different indicators of it, like headaches, teeth grinding, and so much more, even sleeping too little. Well, guess what? My friends, have you tried therapy? Stress shows up in all kinds of ways, and in a world that's telling you to do more, sleep less, and grind all the time, here's your reminder to take care of yourself, do less, and maybe try some therapy. And do it with BetterHelp, because BetterHelp is the shit. I've been using it for a very long time, and they have been a long time sponsor because I really do fuck with them. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy. Give it a try and see if online therapy can help lower your stress. I've been using BetterHelp for a long time, my friends, and talking to my therapist helps me out. I do it 2 to 3 times a month, and guess what? It is a necessity. If I'm gonna take care of myself physically, I'm gonna take care of myself mentally. Genius Brain listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/genius. That's BetterHelp.com/genius.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wild, right?
Because I'm the provider. What you doing here working and shit?
Yeah, man.
You out here fucking sucking dick?
Yeah.
It's like, nah, I'm working.
Yeah. Brenda's Rib Shack, more like Brenda's Dick Shack.
Yeah. Like, god damn.
Yeah. That's what the place was called. I'm not that creative.
Damn. That's, I was like, oh shit. It's called Brenda's Dick Shack? That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like the only fucking bone you should be sucking is the one right here, bitch. Like,
exactly.
God
Get your ass back in the house. Yeah, so it's like she had 0 independence from 17 to 32, you know? Like none. Like really her whole life up until 32. And so my mom was just kind of like slapping life together herself. And like from what I hear, you know, she was kind of the same person that I knew her to be when she had me, which was like just a fun-loving, like kind, giving person. She was always that same individual. And so yeah, so it's like as I like put all those things together as an adult, I'm like, I don't even know how I'm dealing with one parent's death, let alone 2, 3 years younger, you know, like that's just, yeah, she had all of her own stuff to deal with too. And she was still who she was for me.
And also too, just to kind of put into perspective, like she was also forced to grow up too, but just at a later age because she was kind of held back by her first husband.
Yeah.
It's like, so what the fuck are taxes? What are these things? Like what are, you know, credit cards, all this other shit. Like she probably didn't know how to do any of that stuff. No,
like she just knew how to work. She knew how to work. And so she got jobs.
Yeah.
And that was everything, you know? So yeah, even like finances, like how all that works. I'm still figuring it out now.
Yeah.
You know, that was never a conversation growing up. You know, I'm sure that's true for a lot of people. So that's not like an added thing I'm trying to put in there. But just overall, I just recognized my mom had her own stuff big time. And she did so much for me and tried to like provide for me the best life she could. And I know that was a regret of hers. She felt like that she didn't do a good enough job. But I think given the circumstances, I think she did amazing.
You know, I talked about this too in my podcast before where a lot of people don't understand and this is not like saying privilege in terms of like systemic or like the political sense, but there are people who they don't understand that they have a leg up on just some basic shit. And what I mean by that is that, for example, your mom was forced to grow up at the age of 32 and she was held back by her first husband, right? So the idea is like, oh, you and I both grew up in the same country, let's say somebody else, right? And they go, you have the same opportunities. It's not true. What was your life like growing up?
Right.
What was your financial status? How was your life? Yeah, the opportunities are there and is there to be accessible. But one of the key things that allows people to be successful is knowledge. Like, what the fuck's a credit card? How do I build credit? These things aren't taught to people for number one, for people who don't have money and just don't know how the system works. Like for me too, growing up, because my parents were immigrants, they don't understand. I'm an immigrant too. Never understood exactly what the whole schooling system is, right? Like how do we fucking MacGyver the shit to make it work for us?
Right.
What are these like, scholarships? What are all this other stuff for? We don't know these things. Right. But there are people who have lived in this country for a very long time who've had like good lives and they know this stuff. They understand the in and outs of how the education system works. And sometimes when I talk about privilege, it's like, I don't mean it, like I said, I don't mean it in as like white privilege, black privilege, Asian. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the privilege of just kind of like having people who are knowledgeable in your life.
Circumstance.
Like it really does matter, like in the outcome of our lives. Right? Because your mom just didn't know. Right? And then how was she able to teach you these things when she didn't know what was going on either?
Right.
All she knew that I had to work, make money, and make sure that I had food on the table and a roof over my kid's head. And that's her basic, which is kind of crazy, man. And like for you, after she passed away, you went to go live with your friends. Like it kind of blows my mind, just like how something your mom instilled in you was just done by her just being herself.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of trippy. She didn't have to tell you, hey, no matter what you're going through in your life, you still have to make sure that you get these things done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just kind of followed her example. There was no word said. There was just, this is what it is. Which is pretty amazing. And I don't think a lot of people understand that too. It's like leading by example is one of the biggest things that you can do for people in your life.
Yeah, man.
Right? A lot of things don't need to be said. And that's why sometimes I get annoyed at, people that I've met and I see their Instagram posts and they talk a big game, but I know these people personally. It's like, talking your shit is very easy. But you leading by people who are around you and they know you're full of shit because you don't ever do the things that you say.
Yeah.
You just know the right fucking words to say. And those are two fucking different things.
100%.
100%.
Yeah, man. I think that like with the perspective that I've gotten about, I think parenting in general, and I don't have kids, so I know I'm like speaking out of my realm. But I think that what I got, here's what I have. I have that the majority of the people I've met in my life, have positive things to say about me in one regard or another. And the way I was raised was I was given my space and I was 100% positive that my mom loved me and that I could go to her with stuff. That was really it. Like there wasn't like, there was like sometimes we would sit down and talk about some stuff about what you'll experience growing up, but there wasn't like a strategy I was given or like, I just, what I had was love and space to be myself. And I feel like now what that gave me was just a really strong sense of self. And even when it comes to things that I don't know or like sort of like people's behaviors that I don't grasp at first, my baseline is to like be compassionate and have empathy.
Yeah.
Because that's what I saw. And I think with that foundation given to me as a kid, that's kind of allowed me to grow and understand the world around me because there's no entitlement from that place. There's no sense of I should have, because I've literally like had nothing except like a place to live. And so, and through that, I've recognized that you can be in that position and still be a good person. And people will still value you, even if you don't have physical things to give them or favors to do for them.
Yeah.
And I think that was huge. And again, that's just another reason why I'm super grateful for the mom that I had, man. And I wish more people's I had moms like that, because, yeah.
What about you? So your dad left, you said, how old were you?
So this is how my pops ended up not coming around. So basically, he was around up until I was 3. And then I remember it was kind of like, it was spotty. And then essentially one day he stole our VCR and my mom told me he took it to get it fixed. And then he just like never came back around. Yeah. And I think that was my mom trying to protect me from the reality of my pops being a thief. So I didn't see him from 3 until one day he just randomly shows up at our house when my mom was gone at work when I'm 12 years old. And he's like, "Hey, Brian." And I'm like, "Dad?"
So you remembered him?
Yeah, but he was really light-skinned because he had been in prison.
Oh, he was in jail. Okay.
That's why he hadn't been around.
Oh my God.
Because he was in jail, I'm guessing that whole time or some percentage of that time. So he shows up and I'm like, "Hey, Dad, what's up?" And he's like, "How you been? Can I come in?" And I let him in. And he, he takes me to the McDonald's down the street. We get food. We go back to the house. He falls asleep on the couch and I'm just like, "All right, well, I'm going to go to my friend's house." Go to my friend's house. He's not home. Come home. Dad's gone. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Like it was the weirdest. It's the weirdest thing. He just like popped up out of nowhere, hung out for an hour and a half. And then he's like, "Okay," and dipped. And so obviously when my mom comes home from work, I'm like, "Hey, Dad came over." And she's like, "What
the fuck?"
Yeah.
What you mean?
Yeah. Like he was here and he fell asleep on the couch and I went to Bob's house and Bob wasn't home. When I came home, he was gone. And so somehow she got a hold of him or he got a hold of her. And I found out years later that the conversation she had with him was this in and out stuff isn't going to work. So either you're here or you're not. And he chose not. And so that was the last time I saw him.
Do you know where he's at now?
No clue. No idea.
Damn, he just up and fucking disappeared.
Out. He probably doesn't even know my mom is dead.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I have no idea where he's at. I don't even know if he's alive, really.
Yeah.
That's 20 years. 20 years since I've seen him. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Do you have any like resentment towards him? Or you just never knew him? So it's like, how can I resent somebody I don't even fucking know?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird for me because I noticed that he was trying to bond with me in the beginning. But when I look at it for what it is, he was a guy that didn't want kids and ended up with one, And so he was trying to like connect with me, but he was always super distant. He like let me taste his beer one time. And he had a bottle of Old English.
Of course.
Yeah. If that's not
classic Hood Delight.
If that's not the blackest thing I've ever said.
Steel Reserve.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Little Mickeys.
Exactly.
You know
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's like, "You want to try this?"
You want to try this? He's like, "Dad, I'm one."
Yeah, exactly. Like, "Sure. Well, this doesn't taste like milk and honey."
Yeah. Your mom's like, "You really are not a good dad."
Yeah, like you're kind of
fuck out of here.
Yeah, bounce.
Yeah.
Like, you just got my 2-year-old drunk.
Yeah. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, man. So that was a weird experience. I've thought about that a lot. Because I have I've been blessed with some friends that are therapists, actual therapists, and I've talked to them about it, and they're like, "You probably have some trauma around your dad," and I was like, "That would make sense," but I probably just need to go to therapy myself because I don't really know what to make of it. I don't know. I don't feel any anger towards him. I mean, as you just heard me say now, it's like I recognize he wasn't expecting to have a kid. His lifestyle was already kind of shady.
Because what would have happened even if he was in your life? You know?
Right.
It's like this terrible example in your life.
No, the guy was so check this out, man. So I have this weird childhood memory, like a fragment of it. But my mom told me when I was 2, my dad rode motorcycles. And so what he did, his like attempt to like bond with me and it's so funny because she tells this story like it's so like nurturing and fatherly. But what he did was 2 years old, maybe younger, maybe 1, because I was like a baby, like an arm baby. He zips me up in the front of his leather jacket and then drives me to the mountains on his motorcycle and then like shows me nature as a baby. And I'm like, and back then I was like, "Oh, that's crazy, how cool." But now I'm like, wait a minute.
That's dangerous as fuck.
I could have fucking died.
Hey, you know what? Let me tell you something. If this was the year 2000, This is where my use of the N-word would come out.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, motherfucker. He's like, hey, came to your mom. Guess what I did?
Yeah.
I took Brian out to the wilderness. I had him pet a wolf. I put Brian in the mouth of a wolf. What you think about me now? Like, you still a fucking idiot. What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I fed him some pine cones.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
You know, that's what I did. Fed him pine cones. You know, like, yo, you piece of shit. That's not what you're supposed to do.
No.
Maybe that's why your mom gave him ultimatums. Like, you gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, when you think about like the motorcycle crash rate in California is like 100%.
And I'm pretty sure I know where he went. He went to Angel's Crest.
Yeah. Yeah. With a baby zipped up in the front of his leather jacket.
A hella dangerous place to be. Just winding roads and shit. It's like, you enjoy that, boy?
Yeah. You having fun down there?
Yeah.
You having fun, little nigga?
That's just hella funny.
I can't even say words yet. I'm just like,
you know, all right.
Yeah.
He just like looked at your mom all proud of himself. Yeah, I'm a good dad.
But then she was impressed by it too. She was like,
my God.
oh, they're bonding. Because I'm saying the way she told the story, she's like, your dad zipped you up in his jacket. You look so cute. He just drove you to the mountains. And I'm like,
Mom,
I'm like,
that was not okay.
What? Yeah.
It's like, yeah. You're going 1,000 miles an hour.
But I heard that story when I'm 8, so I'm just like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Dad, if only he stuck around. Like,
it's just so fun. That's like him trying.
Yeah. I have this like specific memory of him buying me he bought a Whopper from Burger King and then cut it in half and let me have half. And I think I was 3 at the time. So it was before I started school. I started kindergarten when I was 4. And I remember like arguing with him that I wanted my own whole Whopper. And he's like, you can't eat all that. You just a little boy. I'm like, I want my own Whopper. These weird memories, man. These weird memories that just stick out about him. Yeah. So yeah, it's strange. But again, you know, to your point, I didn't really connect with him because he never really, outside of those, he was just like the guy that would come around and like give me food sometimes. You know, like there was.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super strange.
It's almost interesting. I feel like it was better that he wasn't around.
Yeah, the guy was reckless as shit.
Yeah, because your mom was a good example for you. So imagine if he was around and he was your male figure.
Oh, I would have been a punk, bro.
Yeah, you would try to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah, and I had a temper when I was a kid too. So yeah, that would have been all bad.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, man.
So it is kind of fortunate. It's an unfortunate, fortunate thing that happened that your mom drew that line. And it's great that she had that foresight. She goes, this guy is going to be a bad example for my son and he needs to fucking leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And he respected it. He didn't come back around.
Yeah, because there's this idea too, and there's this argument where, you know, they talk about having a 2-parent household is like the best for a child.
Right.
And I think that's very circumstantial here because
yeah.
Imagine if your father was the male figure in your life.
Yeah.
And does anybody believe that situation would have been better than him not being around? And in my personal opinion, I don't think so.
No.
You know?
I mean, it's like, yeah, that whole, whatever, if you look at it from like a, whatever, sociological or psychological standpoint of like the percentages say when there's 2 parents, this happens. But like, what about the parents who like both of them just beat the shit out of their kid?
Yeah.
You know, or like just don't feed them, or like my dad is emotionally unavailable and my mom is whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the people, right? It's not the presence of the people, it's the people.
Yeah.
And my mom was a dope. She was like a dope individual. So it's like that. I don't feel like I missed out on anything given the parents I was given, right? Because it's not like, of course, if you could just imagine yourself with a better dad and then put him in the slot.
Bro, your situation is so interesting because it's like no matter where you turn to, there's some fucked up people in your life. Like nobody has your back, dude. It's like, your friends did, thank God. You know, so
yeah, and that's a blessing and a half.
It's like, what the fuck? Because you had your cousins, what you told me, which was a whole other fucking story too, which is goddamn nuts to me, man. I'm like, what in the fuck? Why is it that these people like? It's like they're supposed to be your protection, and they keep fucking you over,
dude. I'm telling you, yeah. So yeah, just to touch on that, it's growing up. So I had my 2 cousins. So my female cousin who was my aunt's daughter, and then my cousin-in-law who was her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, I always like love her. And then him, I just thought he was an asshole. He was just a dick for no reason. I was like, why does this guy live with us? Like, I don't like this guy. And then, but it was always kind of like when we lost that house in Pasadena, things became a bit tumultuous, and the female cousin was acting different. Her husband just continued to be an asshole. And so I just sort of like distanced myself from them. But then there came a point when I was 17 where my mom was just so burnt out on living in that motel. And they had got a hold of a townhouse in Monrovia. And my mom was like, look, they're saying we can come live with them. Like, we should just go do it. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to be good, but like, you hate it here, I hate it here. Let's give it a try. And we move in, and it was just kind of like downhill from there. Because, so I'm 17. I hadn't finished high school. Just because, looking back at it, I think just my mom got sick, like as I was getting into high school, because she had diabetes for 8 years. And I just, like, there was nothing that could make me give a fuck about that place, given like what my mom was going through and what was happening with her. And so I asked her to sign me out. So at the time I wasn't in school, 17. We move in with them. They're like, you need to get a job. If you're going to live here, you need to pay rent. And I was like, fair enough. But I'm like a 17-year-old with no job experience and no GED, no high school diploma. So everyone's like, why the fuck would we hire you? Like,
Yeah.
So I couldn't get a job. So then finally my cousin gave me a job got me a job as a security guard working under the table. And it started out cool, working a bunch of hours. The money was dope for a 17-year-old. I was making like $800 a paycheck.
That's real good.
Yeah, it was cool. For 17 years old, it was fire. And this is the kind of people, like a window into just how they are. So my female cousin, my blood cousin, she goes, hey, you know what? Since it's your first job, your first check, you don't have to give us any money. Just keep that and enjoy that. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. I'm like, dope. So I go and I get the check, and she's like, oh, how does it feel making money? I'm like, it's great. I got $800. She's like, you got how much? And I was like, 800. She's like, okay, you can pay us. Just like flipped on a dime. Flipped.
I'll kill somebody. Dude.
Yeah.
I'll kill a motherfucker, dude.
Bro. And so that kind of continued, man. And like every page. And the crazy thing is, this whole time they're getting money from my mom. Granted, they were getting money from my mom before we even moved in with them. And after we lost that place and ended up back in the motel, they were still hitting up my mom for money. Constantly. My mom was giving them money while paying to live in a motel.
I will literally cut these people.
I'm telling you. Just like leeches, human leeches. I love their kids. I love their kids. I like they have 5 kids, and I love the hell out of all of them. The 2 oldest ones they're like 5 and 6 years younger than me, so they've been adults. But they have 3 little ones, and I love them. But their parents, so things progress, and basically we lived there for a year, and they continue to take more and more money from my paychecks as I get them. And it kind of comes to like a boiling point when the way we got paid at this company, because it was so small, is we had physical time cards we had to keep, and you had to fax in your time card to get paid. And I had misplaced the one I had for that week. And so my check was late. And out of nowhere, they're like, we need that money. If we don't get that money, we can't pay rent. And I was like,
pay rent? What you mean?
And I was like, what the? And at the time, I'm like, that sounds crazy, but I can't question it. You're getting money from my mom, my aunt at the time. So I'm just like, what is happening? Like, this is crazy.
Like, what's the rent on this townhouse? What are you talking about?
Right. And this is 2006,
In Monrovia?
Yeah. 2006, 2005 in Monrovia. Like a townhome.
That rent was like fucking barely $2,000.
Yeah.
Probably like $1,800.
It was probably less. Probably like 15.
Less. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, so they're pressing me. And by the time I get the check, they get like their eviction notice to get out. And so they're literally putting it on me that they lost the house. They're like, because we didn't get your check, we couldn't make the rent. And now,
but you don't get an eviction notice that fast.
Fuck no.
So they weren't paying for a hot second.
They were late. So leading up to that point, they're trying to get me back, because after they lose the place, and I still don't know what really is going on. I move out of there. I move in with another friend who lives in Pasadena, and they're like, oh, well, you still owe us money for that last time you were here at the townhome. I finally find the pay card. I turned it in. I get the check. I go back to give them the money. And at that time, the youngest cousin at the time had just been born. He was like 1 year old. And I go in and he like walks up to me and her husband like just grabs him away from me. Like, nope, like we're not talking to him. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like they just like flipped on me. They just flipped. Like I became their most hated person. And it literally like, it just didn't make sense. I was like, how was it that like my one check was the reason why you guys couldn't pay the rent when there's 3 adults in this house with incomes and like you're counting on a 17-year-old's check to make the rent? Like I just didn't understand. Come to find out, my cousin's husband, years prior when they lived in Riverside, had his license suspended. And he got pulled over driving my cousin's car with a suspended license. And so he got like this $3,000 fine for driving the car on a suspended license, and he just didn't pay it. And so he had gotten a notice saying like, look, there's a warrant out for you. You have to pay, it was some crazy amount of money, like maybe $7,000 or $8,000. Like
Jesus.
Like you need to pay this in, I think it was like 90 days or there's going to be a warrant out for your arrest and we'll take you to jail. And so that's where like the crunch for the money was coming from. But to I'd like to jump around in the story. So that was there, right? And so them to get me back after they lose the place, I was my cousin-in-law was my relieving security officer. And my shift was overnight. It was 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And so what he did was on the following shift, he just didn't show up. And this guard company's little. There's like maybe 5 of us.
Yeah.
So he just didn't show up. And so I'm calling and I'm like, hey, I call my cousin and I'm like, hey, where's Ricardo at? And she's like, don't worry about him. You just stay there and keep working, because we have to, he needs to be home to help us find a new place since you didn't give us the money.
Oh my God. I'm about to sock this bitch in her fucking mouth.
Yeah. It's crazy. So I'm just like, okay. So then I call.
Just gaslighting the fuck out of you.
Bro, you know what I'm saying? Like it's nuts. And I'm just kind of in it. And I don't know all the details. So I'm still like, fuck, man, I fucked up. And so I call our field supervisor, who is my cousin-in-law's younger brother. And I call him and I'm like, hey, Ricardo hasn't showed up for his shift. I don't know what's going on. And he goes, okay, I'll call him and I'll find out what's going on. And until then, I'll come and relieve you, but I can't get there until like 5 o'clock. And so I've been at this post from 10 p.m. the previous night. And it's now like 2 p.m.
Holy shit.
I'm the only guard there, right? So then they call me back. They call me and they're like, why'd you call Paul? And I'm like, well, I was just trying to figure out what was going on. Like I need someone to relieve me. I can't just be here all day. Like I have to come back today for my next shift. And they're like, why'd you do that? That's none of his business. That's none of his business. You just stay there. You need to stay there because this is your fault. You did this. And I'm just like, this is fucking crazy. So then I get relieved. Finally, Paul gets there. He relieves me. And at this point, I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of there. I have to move. So this was around the time where I go back, give them the money. He pulls my little baby cousin away from me because he doesn't want him like touching me or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, I guess this is done. And then our boss, he's like, hey, why are you working all these extra hours? And I'm like, well, like Ricardo told me I need to work these extra hours to make up for the money he missed because he has to pay this whatever. And he's like, I know his financial situation. I've been giving him plenty of hours. Like I know his situation. I'm paying him enough to take care of his family and take care of that money. Why is he making you work all these hours? And I was like, I don't fucking know. Come to find out, he was buying drugs.
Oh my fucking God, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
This shit's giving me anxiety, bro.
I know.
And it sucks. You know what sucks about the situation too? They know your age. They know that you have a certain level of respect for authority for people who are older. They gaslight you. to the point where you just feel guilty.
Yeah.
You feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah,
And they're hovering and using this against you constantly because they understand that you're somebody who respects authority. So you just go along. And as a young person too, the hardest thing for people to do when they're younger, and even adults, even now I'm teaching some of my friends who are my age, 30, 40 years old, to set boundaries.
Yeah.
And making boundaries is fucking hard, especially when you're fucking young because you don't even have like your own 2 feet on the floor yet.
Right.
Solid.
Yeah.
So you don't know where to set boundaries, especially when it comes to an adult figure who's supposed to know better than you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
God damn it. These people still alive. Can I stab them up real quick?
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
Well, they're going through their own shit now.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, it was just an insane time. And then, yeah, so that whole thing falls apart. I quit that job because like, I don't want to work with him anymore. He was going to stay my relieving officer. And so I quit. And then, after I quit, like the boss and Ricardo, the boss calls me and he's like, "Hey man, they said they found child porn on the computer here in the guard's office."
God.
And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, they said you downloaded it." I'm like, "Who's that? What? No, like that's insane." And he's like, "You sick mother." And I hang up on him and I'm like, "What the 17?" And I'm like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Bro, my anxiety is going through the fucking roof right now.
Bro. So then they come over to my house and they like try, this is after I quit. They try and like scare tactic me, my boss and my shitty cousin. All I can think of is that he was involved in some way.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. It's like out of left field, bro. So they both come over and they're like, we don't know what's going on here, but like there may be legal action, so just watch out. If somebody calls you for information that comes over from you, make sure you give them that information. They come over to my friend's house that I'm living with. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I don't know what the fuck that is. I mean, my mind is like racing, bro. My mind is racing.
Yeah, you're 7. Dude, okay.
It's insane. And
you
like,
give me a fucking address. I will literally gut these people alive, dude.
Dude, it's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. And it's like, all I can think of is it was just like a reaction to me like stepping away from that situation, you know? And it's like, thinking back to it now, like I recognize that they were obviously having some crazy situations in their relationship. He was using drugs again, apparently. I didn't see it, but that was just something my mom told me. So he was spending all this money on drugs while having to pay off that warrant. And she just didn't want any of the family to know about it. And also during this time, this 1 year that we lived there, my aunt, my cousin's mom, dies from a stroke, right? Has a stroke in the bathroom. I come home from work one night and the bathroom door is just like off, you know, because it opens inward. She had her stroke and collapsed and her body was like blocking the doorway. And that happened when I was gone at work. So then that night, not that night, 2 nights later, we go to the hospital and my aunt's just like comatose, like on the bed, like it's like the brain bleed thing, you know?
Yeah.
So she was just like gone, basically. She was just on life support. And that was tough for me, but obviously way tougher for my cousin. My aunt was like kind of just a distant person, a little bit more cold. So I never connected with her as a kid. But yeah, my cousin was dealing with all that, kind of already an unstable person as it was.
Clearly.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you know, she's like shacked up with this guy who's just like neglecting his family and like buying drugs with this money that he's supposed to be paying off this warrant with. So that was just like a whirlwind of a year. 17 was crazy. 17 was insane.
So what happened with the whole thing with them threatening you and stuff with the whole child porn thing? And
literally nothing.
They just wanted to fucking sweat you and make you feel like shit?
That's how I know it was bullshit. That's how I know it was fucking crazy. Because it's just like nothing happened. No investigator hit me up. No cops came to the house.
Well, of course they're not going to do that because they're already running an illegal security business because they're paying everybody under the table.
Yeah, and they're paying a 17-year-old to be a guard.
Exactly. You could just be like, well, I'm 17 years old and they're paying me under the table. They're not paying their taxes. Yeah. They would be fucked. Yeah. It's like, hey, you want to play this fucking game? Let's fucking, but you're 17. Who would know? As an adult, you could be like, cool, I just called the IRS.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'll deal with it. I'm 17. Yeah. I'm young.
Yeah. Like I'll survive.
Like I'm 17. My juvie record will be erased when I become an adult. I'm good. How about you?
Yeah.
How about you, druggie?
Yeah. How about you, druggie?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean, as a 17-year-old, you can't do that shit. You don't know enough about this world.
Fuck no.
Oh
Again,
my God, dude. That's fucking insane, dude.
it was wild. That year was crazy. That year was insane.
How the fuck are you alive? How are you alive?
Just, I don't know, man. Just lucky.
Have you kept in contact with them since?
So, yeah, I've seen my cousin, Rosalind. I've seen her. I kind of lost contact with her when, okay, here's another story. So
Oh my God.
So the final thing that drove the wedge between my cousin and I was, so when I was 16, no, younger, I was a kid. My mom, through her job, they offered her like a life insurance policy. And so, but I guess at the time, the person to be made a benefactor had to be 16 years old at the time that she made the policy, and I wasn't. So she made my cousin the benefactor. And then the idea was when I turned 16, she would switch it over. Well, 16 and on is when she like got sick, started getting sick and sicker and sicker. So it just never came up. I even forgot about it. So then my cousin hits me up. I don't know where she's at because it's been years now since we've had contact with her. All I knew is that she had separated from Ricardo. And she hits me up and she's like, hey, I just got a thing in the mail saying your mom passed away. And it was the life insurance thing.
Mm.
And she was like, I called her. I called her and I told her, so she knew my mom died. But then she got the notice from my mom's company about the life insurance policy. And she was like, oh, if you just send me the death certificate, I'll send you the money. And I was like, okay. So I go, my friend's mom drives me. I get the death certificate. I mail it off. And I wait like a couple weeks, don't hear anything back. I call her and I'm like, hey, did you get it? And she's like, oh, it still hasn't gotten in the mail. Maybe go and like get another one and then send it again. Right. So then like, I'm like, okay, I'll try. But like, I never got around to sending another one. But I was like, maybe it just hasn't gotten there yet. So then I call like sometime later, maybe a week or two later, and the numbers changed. It wasn't even like a ring and then a hang up. It was like, this number's not available. Like the number was just gone. And no money ever came. And so I don't know for a fact that she got the money and kept it. But
she got the money and kept it.
Yeah. I mean,
she got the money and kept it.
That's the only
100%.
Yeah. That's the only thing I could deduct from it.
Never in my life was so definite that somebody's going to hell. Never in my life have I been like, I could literally look your cousin in the face and be like, damn, you going to hell.
You really going to hell right now.
Really going to hell. That's crazy. That's crazy. Like, have you prepared?
It's hot.
It's hot as fuck.
It's hot down there. Yeah.
Like, God damn it, bitch.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. You think Lancaster's hot. Man, I'll tell you something else. I'll tell you how hot hell is.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, yeah, she kept the money. So I just didn't. I was like, at the time, that whole thing went down maybe a few months after my mom had passed away. So I was just like, wow, that happened. And then come to find out years later, like when I spoke to her, and there's something about me, it's like, when it comes to, that was just such a monumentous thing that like, I still haven't really had like the guts to confront her about it directly. Because since I don't have proof, like I feel like she would just deny it. Like she's that kind of person.
Of course, she'll just sit there and just gaslight you again.
It never came. How could you accuse me of something like that?
Why would you ever think that I would do such a thing to you? I loved your mother. Your mother was just like my mother. And the fact that you think that I would steal from her son, that you are a terrible person, Brian.
Yeah.
And they would say that, and I would slowly sink a knife right into her fucking gut and look directly into the fucking windows of her soul.
Yeah, man. But come to find out years later, what had happened was they just like, she was with this new guy who was her ex-husband's best friend, and like his kids and their kids, and they were like living in a house. They were like renting a home out east somewhere in the Inland Empire. And just like blew through the money and then ended up losing the house somehow. I don't know the fine details. But yeah, they just spent it all.
Drugs.
Yeah, maybe. She didn't go into detail, And it's like, I think she knew that the thing she was talking about was around the same timeline. So when she was talking about it with me, she like skimmed over a lot of shit. And the thing about my cousin is, growing up with her, She's like, can be one of the most charismatic, like bubbly, funny people ever. Amazing cook. She cooked every single holiday dinner that we ever had when we lived together. I thought she was dope. She was my favorite in the world. But then as we got older and I got older, she just started treating me real different. And it got to a point where, I mean, the only thing I could describe it as is bipolar, to where like she'd be cool and say, so my job when we lived together in Monrovia my chore was to clean the kitchen after breakfast and after dinner every day. That was my chore, the whole kitchen. And there was like a speck left on the stovetop. I know this sounds ridiculous, but legit, there was like a speck. And she was like, you didn't clean the oven. And I was like, I did clean the oven. She's like, no, you didn't. Look at this. And I was like, oh, well, I missed a spot, but I cleaned the oven. Like it's clean. There's just a spot. No, that means you didn't clean it. No, but I did. I just missed that spot. And she grabs a dish, shatters it. Boom. Do you really want to go back and forth with me right now? And I was like, okay, I will clean the spot. So and that was, she was never like that when I was a kid. She was never like that. Ever, ever, ever.
Wonder what happened to her.
In her life, I don't know. Like,
There's something happened to her fucked up for her to be like that.
She's like night and day. She'll just flip a switch.
Who the fuck this is like the crazy thing too, man. It's so hard to balance that fine line between like empathy and then now you're just fucking with me.
Yeah.
You're right? Because sometimes people get this a little confused. They go, oh, you don't give a fuck about this person. You should be a little more empathetic. Empathy only goes to a certain fucking extent to the point where you can't keep taking from me.
Yeah.
I can be empathetic. I can understand what you're going through, but I can make choices to not be a part of your life. Doesn't mean that I'm the fucking asshole now.
Yeah.
It means that I know my boundaries. I understand my boundaries, and you have crossed that boundary too many fucking times. I understand you're going through shit, but you don't get to drag somebody down just because you're going through your own personal shit. 100%. And that's that hard part, because I want to be empathetic. I want to be a loving and kind human being, especially when people are going through shit.
Yeah.
But it can't be to my own detriment though.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the hard part, because like I hear this story, I'm like, oh, she was so sweet, and then something happened to her. I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
And you could try to help that person, but they could only be helped to the point where they want to be helped.
Yeah.
After that, you just got to make your own choices, set that boundary and balance.
Totally.
That's fucking crazy to me.
It's wild, man.
This girl took your money after your mom died.
Yeah.
This is money that you needed.
Yeah. Oh, that would have made things. It was $10,000.
Yeah.
It was $10,000. That would have made everything different.
Yeah.
Everything.
Rent,
yeah.
food,
yeah.
clothes.
I would have been cool.
Yeah.
You know? I probably would have spent it all. I was 20 years old. I didn't know shit about money, but like it would have been something until I got a job, you know?
Yeah.
So who knows what I would have done different, but it's
Do you still keep in contact with her now?
Mostly just because of her kids. So I grew up, her two oldest children were like my little brother and sister, and I love them to death. And I really should make time to see them more. And then she had 3 more kids after them. She had 1 more son and then twin girls.
Holy shit.
Yeah, she had 5 kids. Yeah, she has 5 kids. And
how does your cousins like deal with this? Like do they know about this?
Yeah. Oh, the money thing, I don't know. I don't think they do know.
Mm.
But it's their parents, you know, and like,
of course, you know, like that's hard.
Yeah. And
yeah.
So it's just, I've never tried to like bring it up with them. I don't want to make my stuff their stuff. But from what I see from them, they feel bad for them. You know, they feel bad for their parents because their parents are both still not in a good way. You know, they're still kind of trapped in the same shit that they were trapped in.
It's like, how do you break this cycle too? You know, because now that you're, you know, they have to kind of deal with this and unpack the parents that they have.
Yeah. Dude.
Like, how do they break that cycle?
And they're they obviously both handled it super different. My cousin Ashley, she joined the army, was in Korea for like 2 years. She was in Germany for 2 years. She now has she has a house with a boyfriend, and like they're like doing good out in Inland Empire. And then from what I hear, my cousin Richard, he's just like kind of just in his room all day, like just depressed. He just goes to work, comes home.
I guess I'm saying, like, this cycle is fucking endless.
Yeah, man.
It's just like, how do you unpack this shit for people? Like, how do you save these people?
Yeah.
Because it's just, it's generational trauma. It just happens over and over and over. And then you can only hope that you're a little bit better than the person that you were before.
Yeah.
And then you're right. You know, when you look at this situation now, I can see why you could say to yourself how fortunate you are that you had your mother for the time that she did.
Yeah.
Because she instilled all these great qualities that you still carry on today, despite all your circumstances.
Yeah.
And that's the hard thing to tell people, right? It's like, listen, you can't always be a victim of your circumstance.
Right.
It's really hard to say because it sounds like I'm being dismissive because we've all gone through a lot. Shit, I didn't go through shit you went through. Motherfucker, I thought I went through some shit. Let me tell you something, dude. Whenever I feel sad, I'm just going to listen to this podcast and be like, hey, you know what? Not so bad, dude. Not so fucking bad.
Right.
You know?
I hear you.
Because I had to, you know, I had conversations with my cousins too about, you know, their parents and kind of some fucked up shit that they did.
Yeah.
And they never understood why, like, why doesn't your dad and my mom get along? And they just never knew like the fine details of things. But because I was so hyper involved in everything, I knew everything. And then, you know, as we got older, there wasn't any resentment, but I just told them, I was like, this is the reason why your dad stole money. Like so my grandpa was living with us at the time. And, just like this like personal drama of just like kind of mishandling money and shit. Basically, you know, he was lightweight taking my grandfather's social security checks we were supposed to use for him to buy him food, clothes, whatever, while he was living with us. It's not a lot of money, but we didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
So that could have really helped him out. So we were just kind of waiting around. And, you know, my dad doesn't really speak English that well, and neither did my mom was speaking English at all. So I had to call in to the office and see what's going on. It's like, no, we've been sending you guys checks. It's like, for how long? It was like years, but it was to their address, and they were cashing that check in. And that was my dad's last straw. He was like, fuck this. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's an absorbent amount of money where it's going to help us get a leg up. It was, you're literally taking money from your own parents' fucking mouth.
Crazy.
And it was just food from your parents' mouth. It was like so disheartening, right? And then I got to say my piece. Finally, it was when my grandmother passed away, and she took care of me really well because my parents were working so much. During the times that they were working, my grandparents watched this. And my grandma fucking hated my guts, by the way, but I still loved her. She fucking used to beat the living shit out of me, which is like another story. She beat me so bad to the point where my dad didn't let my grandma see me for a few months because she hit me so hard with this like stick in my face, and it barely missed my eye. And so I had this like welt and scar across my forehead, my cheek, and it just barely missed my eye.
Whoa.
And so my dad was like, you're done. You're not seeing your grandchildren anymore.
That's
like,
where the head movement comes from.
Yeah. It started early. Oh shit. Yeah.
I was like, David's a natural.
I just get my ass beat. That's funny. Yeah. It's like, what was your first martial arts? It was fucking ass whooping kundo. Yeah. I had to dodge shit like crazy.
Right.
But then that was like my aunt's mom. And my grandmother had an aneurysm, and then she also, which caused like a stroke, which led to like severe Alzheimer's. And so she was left in a home at the time, and I felt bad because her memory would come in and out. And I remember I had to go and check on her at the nurse home during the daytime because my parents were working. Yeah. So I checked on her every day. And then I remember just hearing stories where like the nurses were telling me, it's like, oh yeah, your grandma, her sense kind of came back a little bit, but you know, I wish you guys were here because we couldn't calm her down because she woke up and she got her memories back for an instant, but she didn't know where she was. So she was crying. Whoa. She was like, where am I? Where am I? This is not my home. Whoa. And then her memory would disappear, and then she would be kind of like in a vegetative state again. Oh. And I had to deal with this shit for like 3 or 4 years. Like I had to see her like that. And then my aunt, I remember she came in, and so my grandma passed away. Mm-hmm. She was at this point like intubated, so she had like she couldn't eat, so they had to put a tube into her stomach to get food in there. And so my dad there's no plug to pull at this point. Mm-hmm. You know, so there was a point where she was just brain dead, and then we had to pull the plug. And then I remember my aunt came, and this is like I was watching her being wheeled away, and then I was like dealing with this, and then my aunt, she was hysterical. By the way, during the time that she was at this hospital, at this nursing home, she never visited her once. That's her mom. Whoa. And so she was like looking at me. She goes, you should have taken care of her better. Bro,
Don't.
Boom.
Yo.
This is like they're being wheeled away, and I fucking started ripping into her right as the paramedics were carrying, and they were like, my mom was telling me to calm down. I was like, no. And I'm like cursing her out in Korean.
That's fucking
I was
crazy.
like, you didn't see your own mother once. I was like, and now you're looking at her when she's dead. It's too late. It's too late. She's dead.
Right.
She's fucking dead. And you were a piece of shit. Like you did not, this is your mother. And then for her later on, like after I said my shit, she was crying. I was crying. I was pissed.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of like looked at her and she didn't really apologize to me. She just kind of said like, I just couldn't see my mom in that state. And I was like, that's okay. You don't ever tell me that it's my fault.
Yeah.
Yeah. You watch what you fucking say to me.
That's fucking wild, dude.
So, like those type of things, it's like, dude, sometimes like the people that can hurt you the most is your family.
Totally.
It's like, it's crazy because they have that knife that's so close to your heart. Like when they do something bad, it hurts 10 times more than when somebody else does it.
Hell yeah.
So it's like when I hear your shit of like just this person who took that money from you that your mom, by the way, worked really fucking hard for.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, it's not just money. Like that's something that my mom left for me.
Yep.
In case some shit happened, and it happened.
Yep.
What the fuck?
Yeah. While you're over here married to a man who has a job.
Yeah.
Like you didn't need it.
How he dealt with it was terrible, but you had money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you had somebody. Like and it's like not to diminish what the beautiful thing like my friends' families did. I was helped by a lot of people and I was super lucky for that. But that I wasn't their obligation.
Yeah.
That was like literally, that was pure. I survived on good graces throughout the entirety of my 20s.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it, right? Because at the end of the day, like I'm a grown ass man. And if they don't want me living in their house, I don't need to be living in their house, right?
Yeah.
They could have that. No one would blame them for that perspective. So it's like, for me to be in that position when you're like married in a house and a fridge full of food, and you're like, come up. What?
Yeah.
And the thing that made it really like fucked up was that like, it was just a continuation of how she had been with my mom the entire time. She like preyed on my mom's kindness. What I was telling you, how we were living in the motel, and she would always just come by with some sob story.
As you're living in a fucking motel.
Motel. You came from a house. You came from your in-laws' house to come to our motel.
To ask for money.
To get money from my mom. And she would give it every time.
Fuck, man.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
It was just like a continuation of the...
She was like, oh, I did it to Brian's mom and I'm going to do it to Brian now too.
100%.
Which is so fucked up.
Which is why I keep way away from her. And even now, she'll reach out to me and it's like nothing but like sweet, loving, kind things. Like,
what do you want though?
I can't not shake that feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like when she saw the Killer Queen boxing stuff and the coaching thing. Oh, that's amazing. That's so great. Haven't talked in years. That's incredible. You're doing your thing. That's so great. That's amazing. Like you think I have money.
Yeah.
You think I have money.
Yeah.
And you see an opportunity, because now she's just living off of her kids. Her kids are taking care of her.
That's what I'm saying. And that's the thing too, that's why I dislike it when people come out the woodwork and they go, I'm proud of you. Proud of what?
Yeah.
You were not a part of this process.
Yeah.
You were not a part of the struggle. You were not a part of anything but misery.
Yeah.
So the fact that you come here and you say, you're proud of me, proud of what? Tell me what the fuck you're proud of.
Right.
What are you proud of?
Right.
You're proud that what? Now that I am successful through all these trials and tribulations that you want to take from me? I don't think so.
Yeah.
You're not proud of shit. You're trying to prey on me.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest difference. And a lot of people might think that that's very negative, but I've yet to be proven otherwise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And even some people too, they hide some of their pride, like saying they're proud of you with resentment. They go, why are you doing well?
Yeah, man.
Why am I not doing well?
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, it's that. And then it's also like, you just feel fucking guilty is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just feel like shit because it's like all that taking you did and where did it leave you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're in the quality of your position is on the merit of your children.
That's why, like for me, people know too that when they ask me for money, there's a stipulation involved, right? And I learned this from my dad. He goes, you don't ever let people borrow money. He goes, you can give it, but don't let people borrow.
Yeah.
I was like, the reason why is because the moment it leaves your hands, it's not yours.
Mm-hmm.
So it strains relationships. It strains everything.
Yeah.
So if you give it to them, give it because you know you have excess. And if you lost this money, you'll still be okay.
Yes.
And so I'll do it. I always tell people, look, I'll give you this money. I was like, but here's the thing. I'll never ask you for it, but it's on your merit to give it back to me.
Yeah.
I'll never think about it. But just know that when you take, that this is a part of our relationship now. I'm going to trust you to eventually give this back. I was like, and I don't care how much. I was like, you can give me $5 a month and I'll still take it. But if you just take it and then you just never bring it up and don't talk about it, I'm not going to forget that.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
I'll never ask for it because it's gone.
Yeah.
But now it's going to be on your merit to make this right.
Yeah.
So like recently somebody just borrowed money from me and I was like, this is yours. Pay me back whatever amount you want per month. $1, 50 fucking cents. I don't give a fuck what it is. But I just need to know that you respect me enough that you'll return this back to me.
100%.
And those are the type of people I want around me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
I dislike it when people do that because it's not so much a test of our friendship, but it's a testimony to who we are to each other.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Well, yeah, because and I feel like the person asking needs to take that shit into consideration too, right? Like what brought you to this point where you need to ask a peer for money?
Yeah.
When like we're all out here grinding, we're all out here doing what we need to do to get money. How did you get to this point where we're to some degree on the same level, at least as adults functioning in the world, that you need to ask me for money? I'm not an institution.
Yeah.
I'm not a bank. It's not like I'm sitting on $5 million of investment money, right? I'm not a Roethlisberger or whatever. So it's like, how did you get there? And then are you on the up and up? Was this just a random occurrence? Like how did you get to that position? Because that's in my head, like why I feel like I could never ask another peer for money is because it's like, well, I think the cure is for me to fix my situation to the point where I even thought about, let me ask David for some money real quick, man. Let me just, you know what I'm saying? Like, because how did I get here?
That's, I'll keep saying this every podcast, even if somebody gets sick of it, it's personal responsibility. I'm telling you, that shit is liberating. Like when you're able to look at your situation and say, listen, what could I have done? And that means you've exhausted your options, then yeah, come.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't exhaust those options.
No.
A lot of people too, and have a lot of pride and ego. They think they're above a job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I did this job and I was making this money and now I'm not. I can't go work this job. Listen, you are fucking broke. You are not above shit.
Yeah.
Right? Because I get asked that all the time. They go, whoa, what if all this stuff disappears? Motherfucker, there's Uber. There is DoorDash.
There's a hustle.
There's, I'll go apply at a fast food restaurant. I'll go apply fucking anywhere.
Yeah.
You think I'm above a fucking job? I grew up dirt fucking poor. The most important thing to me is that I even have backup plans. Even though I know that I make pretty good money, I have backups on backups.
Oh yeah.
Right? I'm like, okay, well, if this doesn't fucking work out, let's say, hopefully, like I even think about shit. Like I thought about this the other night. I was like, okay, let's say all my investments go to shit. Then I got to lose this place. I'll go move into like a studio. We'll talk to, she makes good money. This is in case she's not here either. She leaves me. I'll move into a studio. If not, I'll live out of my fucking car. I'll fucking work a job here until I can save enough money, get a studio, get a room, live out of there and rebuild back up.
Yeah.
Like there is no pride. I don't have pride because in order for me to say that I'm too proud to work a job, it means that I believe that I'm above somebody else who works this position.
Yep.
And I'm never in that position.
Yep.
I remember when my parents first opened up their store, we couldn't even afford the fucking shelves to put the products on it.
Wow.
It was hard. My mom still had to work cleaning hotels and motels. My dad still had to work a part-time job as a mechanic while we still had that store.
Woo.
While he was still going through seminary school.
Oh my gosh.
It's like none of us are above a job. We just have to make sure that we survive and eat.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times, I had a friend who was consistently, and mind you, like this person, I lent them money or I gave them money because I knew how hard they were working until it got to a point where I had a long conversation with this guy and I was like, hey, I'm going to give you this money, but it's going to come with a lecture. Do you want this? He goes, yeah. I was like, I'm okay giving this to you. And most of the times when I gave you money, it's because it was poor circumstance. I was like, now you're not in a situation where this is. I was like, there are so many things that you could do to make money. You choose not to do it. I was like, because you think that you're above a job. I was like, I want you to think about this. You would rather take money from someone like me who is working his ass off just to scrape by and you won't do the same.
Yeah.
But you would rather take it from my pocket.
Yeah. Oof. That's heavy.
Right?
That's heavy.
Like, how do you think that makes me feel?
Yeah.
I'm doing shit that I don't want to do just so I could keep these fucking lights on. I'm saving up. And then all this money that I saved up grinding, doing shit I don't want to do, I now have to give it to you because you want to live a life where you get to do everything that you want.
That's a dope perspective.
You
You put that perfectly.
Like how unfair is that to someone who I'm your friend?
Yeah.
How do you think that makes me feel?
Yeah.
I was like, he was like, oh, I don't want to take. I was like, no, you take this fucking money because you already asked.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the last time I'm going to give you money.
Yeah.
And then after that, guess what? He started working.
Figured it out.
He figured it out.
Yeah.
And he paid me back.
Yeah.
I didn't have to ask for it.
That's amazing.
I was like, here you go.
Yeah.
And it made me appreciate this person a lot more too.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool.
They just needed to hear it.
They just needed to hear it.
Yeah.
You know? And it was great because it made me appreciate them more. It strengthened our bond and I created a boundary.
Yeah. That's dope.
You know?
That's super. I like that perspective you gave where it's like, because that's the thing, right? Is like from the outside, all people see is the success you're having, right? And it's like, they don't even take into account the shit you did to get there or where you even came from.
Yeah.
Right? Just you saying like, I used to be poor.
Mm-hmm.
That right there tells you I worked for this.
Yeah.
I'm not a lottery winner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I made decisions. I made specific decisions to put me in the position I am now, like based on my work ethic. So it's like, I'm no different than you. And if anything, that should be inspiring.
Yeah.
Right? It should be like, oh shit.
It's like, I really wish I would have like documented more of the shit when I first came here. Like, I don't remember the exact number, but I always say a random number every time I tell the story. But it was like, I know I didn't have any more than like $100 in my bank account when I came to LA.
Crazy.
It was pretty fucking rough, man.
That's
and
crazy.
And then my parents, you know, when I came here, I think they gave me like a few bucks here and there.
Sure.
But I was so prideful, I couldn't ask them for money.
Yeah.
So instead, I just ate the same shit every day, and I just grinded. And then YouTube started doing monetization. And then I got my first check was like $500.
Wow.
And I covered my rent. My rent was $400.
Wow.
And then that other $100, I had to make it last the whole month to eat.
And I'm sure your appreciation for that $100 was.
Let me tell you something, man. I love that shit, dude. You have no idea how many different ways I could eat top ramen.
Yeah.
Like, and I enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, dog, I could whip up a mean top ramen, you know?
Ooh, yes, sir.
And that come up is very important for me because I always have to be reminded too. It's like sometimes when I don't want to do things, it's like, dog, you had $100 in your bank account, even if that, you know? Like I had a crooked box spring bed and I got this Walmart used desk that was on display and I had to disassemble it and bring it to the house. And so I lived across from an Office Depot, not Walmart, I'm sorry, Office Depot. And I had to just bring that over and I built it. And I just had this box spring bed, that desk, my computer and my camera. And that's all I did. And I stayed in that room until it worked.
Wow.
You know,
That's
every day
crazy.
until it worked, until I started getting revenue.
Yeah.
And I remember I was doing college shows and it was like $100 for a show and I took it. And I was like, I'll take anything,
Yeah, man.
you know?
Yeah.
And those are the things that helps me kind of like put into perspective, like be very grateful for what you have.
Totally.
And on top of that, not only be grateful, continue to work hard because at any given moment, this could be taken away.
Totally.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You never fucking know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a really strong perspective you have on that. Because I think one, just the concept, and this is something I sort of ran into switching from like having a typical 9-to-5 job to kind of crash coursing into being a full-time coach. And then now kind of like playing both ends where like I'm coaching, but now I'm back in a job to where it's like most folks, like just the idea you have about how the world works is around like you get a job, you make money. And none of the risk that comes along with like creating a business or having a business to have income to pay people ever enters your mind. You're just like, I do a task, I get paid. And the thing is like, no, but when you're working for you do a lot of shit
You do
for
everything.
free. Yeah, everything. And you're getting paid for like 10% of it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And you don't factor in like the gas driving to whatever your job is, driving to your clients, the time, people canceling, people hitting you up last minute and you being like, well, I need the money. Fuck, let me get over here real quick. Like there's so much to understanding that side of it that especially if someone's coming to you for money, recognizing that it's not like you because you didn't even do it in a traditional way, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you just landed a dope job because your parents had a company or even that you went to school and like landed a dope position, right? That pays you a bunch. Like every single thing you have, you earned it through the effort of your passion for what it is you do.
Yeah. And I had to reinvest the money and put it back into things. Like people don't understand. They go, oh, you got this podcast, you're making good money. Bitch, you know how much these fucking cameras cost?
Right.
You know how much these fucking mics cost?
Yeah, man.
Like that first, the biggest risk of this podcast was that I didn't have guaranteed ads.
Right.
Like I had to take a risk. And podcasts weren't as popular as it was when I first started this shit.
Right.
So it was like I had to make a fucking risk. And it was like for the first few months I didn't make shit. I didn't make anything at all.
Crazy.
And then YouTube cracked down. I was making $0 off of YouTube. So I was at nothing on my income.
Wow.
And then I took a risk and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's just a lot of stuff to that, nobody wants to see how something is made. They just want to see the end product.
Yep.
And it's a struggle. Like it's always like, listen, if I was balling out of my mind, I wouldn't be renting a house.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would have bought a house by now. I'm not balling,
Yeah.
I like balancing my life with work and pleasure.
Yeah.
Like if I was all work, I guarantee you I could make a lot more money, but I wouldn't be very happy.
Yep.
So I have to figure out what's important to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, that wraps up this episode of the Genius Brain Podcast. I hope you were inspired by that story or maybe depressed.
Yeah. Hopefully a little bit of both.
But, Brian's my current boxing coach right now. We've been doing a lot of great work. If you guys want to hit up Brian for boxing, like I'm telling you, this man's a fucking wizard. Been helping my game and I've been cracking people lately.
I love that.
You could tell them where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm on my main way of reaching me is on Instagram at Brian Perry Boxing Coach. And that's pretty much it. Just hit me up on Instagram. Shoot me a DM.
Shoot him a DM. Get that coaching in. He's a great coach. Very patient. Very good. And then Genius Brain every Sunday at 12 p.m. And we'll see you all next time. Peace.